All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Passionately Speaking. This is our weekly public speaking masterclass where we talk about public speaking, both beginning and advanced techniques and topics so that you can get out there, grow your business, and make some money and get your message out to the world, which is really important for us to change lives for a living, because that's what we are. We're life changers. All right, Jackie just joined us. Welcome, Jackie. Awesome. All right, so our topic today is grab the mic and speak your truth. And I had to laugh at this because my virtual assistant put this out for the first time. And so I had to tell her, well, I have a Michael that I can grab, but I don't know if anybody else has a Michael that they can grab. So it's supposed to be M-I-C, not M-I-C-K-E. But anyway, whatever mic you have nearby, that's what you want to grab today, because we are going to talk about grabbing the mic and speaking your truth. There's never been a better time than today to actually speak your truth and to get with, that naked authenticity that we talked about. We have left now the decade of the experiential speaking, which you've heard me talk about, where we did the high fives. We had the T. Harbecker doing all the high fives and the Mark Victor Hansens, doing the rub outs or whatever. Well, we have left that decade and started a new decade in 2020, which was naked authenticity. And we got pushed into it a little faster than we might have otherwise because of the pandemic, because we had no way we could personally high fives. And, we could do some things like touch your heart, but we couldn't do the massages, and we couldn't do the, touch your elbows or whatever, hugs or shake hands. We couldn't do that. So we're really forced out of that experiential stage that we were in, which was time anyway, and thrown into the virtual arena where we've had to be more authentic. Now, people are still getting there. We're only a year in, so people are still finding their way, but you are going to find your way faster than other people, because I'm going to teach you how to do it. But it's really about, if you want to make that connection, and that's the complaint that I get. Oh, better move my microphone back. That's the complaint I get, is making that connection is so hard in networking meetings. It's hard in classrooms like this. It's hard for the kids to feel connected. Well, guess what? Here's the secret to connection in the virtual world. And that is that naked authenticity, opening your heart, being heartfelt, being who you are, being honest. It's almost like throwing away the script, right? Although I'm not going to say you got to throw away your speaking script, but what we need to do is make sure we're adding that level of vulnerability, right? Now, how do we do that? You better shut that door, because I'm pretty loud, Jackie. I'm pretty loud. I was just telling somebody else, I was on another call today, and we were talking about something about being loud, and it was like, yeah, all my life people have said I've been loud, right? Companies I work for, and that's just how it is. I studied theater, learned to project, and now I'm just loud, right? So one thing, again, that's being vulnerable, right? Sharing something like that. So when we do our speaking, and I'm going to give you all an opportunity, we're going to go around the room. You're going to talk about, grab your mic and speak your truth. But I want to encourage you that for some of you, this is new. I mean, really, stripping away something and really being vulnerable and speaking your truth. Now, it has to be relevant. It has to go with your speech. But there's stuff about all of us that could go with our speech, because that's how we're going to connect. We can't connect in this virtual world unless we open our hearts and open the hearts of others to where they feel what we feel. They do, they've been where we've been. That kind of thing. So when we tell our story, like CJ, when you tell your story, you have a great point in there where when you were younger and you were like the geek, right? Well, now you've owned it. But back then in school, maybe that didn't feel so good, right? So we could talk more about how that felt for you, how being a, and I'm going to make this up. This isn't CJ talking, but I have heard his professional, personal story about him being geek way back when. And maybe because we were in high school, maybe you didn't feel like it was a good thing. I don't know, but let's just play with it. Let's say, being a geek wasn't real popular back then. So that means you weren't popular. You were a nerd, or, the cool girls and boys didn't want to hang out with you because, you were Mr. Smarty Pants or whatever. Or maybe they wanted to cheat from you, or maybe they wanted you to do their homework for them and you did it because you wanted to be liked. See that? I'm not saying that's him, but I'm just taking a story and running with it. That's what I mean by being a little more vulnerable with your story that got you to where you are today. Now he can say, now I'm a geek and I'm making a ton of money from it. And guess what? People want to work with me. They wish they were me, right? So you can turn it into a positive. Now, whenever we tell any of our story, we never want to leave scars, right? We've talked about this. You never want to say something about yourself that people will remember as a negative, right? So for instance, I'm going to make this up, but I'm just going to say, let's say you did some jail time, right? You're a teenager, you did something stupid and you did jail time. Well, you don't need to share that. If you want to share you did something stupid, fine, but you don't want it, because then people might go, jail. Okay, she wants to work with me. Nope, jail. She wants me to hire her. Jail. No, you're right. And it could, even though it was when you were 16, right? And you're 60 today or so, it doesn't matter. Some people will not unsee certain things. A client of mine spoke, and when we were working on her story, she was sharing how she had a double mastectomy, right? Well, maybe that's not something she wants to leave us with, right? Like a woman without boobs, right? Unless she has to go in. I'm serious. But to say she had breast cancer twice, that's different than saying, hey, I got them both lopped off and I have nothing now, right? Because then we're going to get stuck in that story and we can't unsee it. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Are you laughing at me, Jackie?
Damn.
All right.
Damn.
So let me share a little story with you. Okay. What I'm talking about being vulnerable. Now, it does not match my professional story, but it matches the story about speaking your truth. All right. This is an example of speaking your truth. So when I was in high school, I probably was a junior in high school. I had to have ear surgery. That's probably one other reason I speak loud. When I was 6 months old, I got pneumonia, landed in my ear, and I couldn't hear, and they did not discover it until I was 13. My mother just thought that I said huh a lot, right? So finally they discovered I couldn't hear, hardly. And so I had a stapledectomy in both ears. Well, the first one I was 13, but the next one was several years later. I think I was probably 15, whatever a junior is, sophomore, junior, whatever. Well, I was so embarrassed that I had this hearing problem and I couldn't hear as a teenager. Teenagers, that's a horrible, I think, phase for people to go through, kids to go through. Either you come out good or you don't. If you don't have parental support, you can come, some kids are, whacked out because of it. And it takes them a while to get their feet back on the ground, my opinion only. I've never had a teenager, never had a kid, but I was one, and that was enough. I feel sorry for anybody who's had teenage kids to go through. Oh my God. Anyway, so I was embarrassed. So I didn't tell anybody why I was going into the hospital for 3 days. It was 3 days exactly. Of course, my parents told the school and all that stuff, but I didn't tell my friends, not even my boyfriend at the time, because I was embarrassed. When I came back 3 days later, it was rumored around the whole school that I had an abortion. And in that moment, I realized, even my boyfriend thought that, and I was a virgin, right? I was a virgin until I got married out after high school. So I learned in that moment that if you don't, hang on, don't let her in yet. If you don't tell the truth, everybody else's truth of you is uglier than you could possibly imagine. And that's what I learned. And since that day, I don't care how embarrassed or ugly I thought my truth was, I decided I was going to share it because everybody else's truth is uglier when they make stuff up. Got it?
Got it.
So that's why I want each and every one of you to speak your truth, your real truth, because otherwise other people's truths for you could be devastating. All right, we'll let Dr. Renee in. I just didn't want to, when you're in the zone, thank you, Jackie. Thank you. When you're in the zone as a speaker, you don't let anybody interrupt you. I don't care if it's a hand raised, because you can't get back there. So if you ever see or hear somebody in the zone like I was, you just want to like watch, because they'll get out of it. There's the end of the road, right? Because it's an amazing place to be. And the more you speak, the more in that zone you'll be. Jackie can relate. It's like when we run and all of a sudden we're in that zone. It's like the universe and everything around us is in perfect harmony. Right, Jackie? It is, I can't describe it, but that's where we always want to be, whether we're speaking, whether we're running, whatever you're doing, coaching clients, whether you're writing your book or your articles or whatever it is. When you get in that zone, it's a great place to be. So you don't want to get yourself taken out of it or let anybody take you out of it at all. All right. So hi, Dr. Renee, welcome. I'm so sorry you missed my beginning remarks, but you can watch it on the video. All right. So did you have your hand raised, Jackie?
I was just waving hi to Renee.
Oh, okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to exercise that. It's a small knit group. The recordings are only for us. They're not public. Some of them are public when I feel like there's nothing wrong, but this one will not be public. So we are going to practice on speaking our truth, right? Now, whatever truth you share here today may or may not be what you share in your professional story, but sometimes we've got to get down to the nitty gritty before we can, let's say, not only expand it, but before we can get to the real truth or the part of the truth that we want to share. Does that make sense? All right, great. Welcome, Miss Sunshine. Awesome. All right. So you'll catch on. What we're doing is speaking our truth. This isn't going anywhere. It's just practice for us to open up a little bit more and be a little bit more vulnerable and our truth. Because today in this world, without me reiterating what I've just said for the last 18 minutes, this is how we connect. This is how we connect. No more high fives and all that stuff. We have to connect on a heart to heart level. And the only way we can do that is to strip away our clothes, so to speak, and get down to that naked authenticity that makes us real. So how many of you like my story that I shared? True story. I mean, how many of you felt something when I told you that that's what people said about me, right? I was a Christian, right? I was going to Calvary. I mean, that was like the devil's language. You know, how could they? My own boyfriend. What did he think? I went out on him? I mean, like, really? Of course, I straightened it out, but who knows if the rumor mill still, you know, I couldn't tell everybody. I didn't know how many people it went out to. So tell the real truth. All right. Okay, so let's start let's start with Jason, because Jason was the first one in the room. And Jason already, now we're doing it to your story, finding a little, we don't have to hear your whole story, but finding a little place that we can add this moment of truth. Like the example I said about CJ. Maybe, he was a geek, but maybe it wasn't so cool to be a geek in high school. Maybe he got bullied. Maybe he got, ridiculed. Maybe he only had one friend. I mean, it's like whatever the truth was around that. Typically, what we've all been doing is kind of skipping past that. So if I looked at my own story, when I talk about me speaking, and that woman came up to me and said, you say, okay, I was devastated, right? I went home and cried because I was embarrassed of all the other speaking engagements, the 20 or 30 I gave before that one, and I was humiliated, right? She didn't say it in a nice way. Now, I was young, she was old, she was like, honey, I'll never forget her, but it changed my life, changed my speaking. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. But see, I could go on a little bit more about the deeperness of how I felt and how embarrassed I was and how other people might be embarrassed when they speak. All right. So let's start with Jason, just the piece that you're going to add to your professional story. So let's grab that mic and speak your truth.
Okay, one thing I'm going to add to my story is that something I've been working on here, and I just pulled it up. So I gave up, let's see. Okay. A little piece here, I gave up my story that my life has to be hard. Losing my leg versus losing my life was a ridiculous ultimatum. And I spent the last 26 years grieving the loss of my leg because I saw that because I happened to create the story that my life has to be hard, or that losing my leg meant that my life was over. And so guess what? I went from being someone who was a victim of what was going on with my body to now being a personal trainer, where I teach people to be powerful in their thinking so that they may access real happiness in a body that is more confident and alive and equal to the tasks in front of it.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, Jean Vox, where'd she go? Now she's coming back. Okay, now I want you to turn off your computer, or don't turn it off because we'll go off. Sorry. Turn off whatever script is in front of you.
Okay.
Because Jason, one thing I love, many things I love about you, but one thing is your eloquent writing and speaking ability. But right now, I want you to throw away your script, and I want you to really tell us, because that's something, it's not in your story and something we may not think about, is really, how did you feel, just from your heart to us, losing your leg, right? Instead of like dismembered with confidence. I know that's not really,
right.
That real feeling, the minute you made that decision to give up your leg instead of your life, and then how you really felt maybe the first time you stood up on your, first time in therapy or whatever, just any one of those sections, just tell us how you really felt.
At that time?
Yeah, not now, but then how you remember feeling. I mean, we can't imagine how you felt unless that happened to us. So tell us, help us to understand how you felt.
I think because of in falling asleep and then waking up, it's like waking up in two different realities to me. I think that's in one way because why I shared that I've been grieving the loss of my leg for 26 years was because I really never had an opportunity to put sort of what I would claim my life to be put together. I mean, when 1 minute that the lights went out and I fall asleep, there's nothing that I remember about the accident. I don't remember my car rolling over. There's no feeling about that in my body. The next thing I know, the only thing that I remember next is waking up into this reality where here's my mother staring atop of me and my leg is broken in 2 places and there's bandages all over the place. So in my first distinction is that I'm in a dream. I'm in a huge nightmare and I'm dying to wake up real bad, real soon.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had to come to grips with losing my leg or losing my life, that was, I was immensely upset and because I had to come to terms with the reality that I had no say in the matter. I just,
No control, no say in the
control.
matter. Now
Yeah.
that's a piece that I've never heard you say. You really didn't have a choice, but you tell us you had a choice, your leg or your life. But you're saying you really felt like you didn't have a choice. That's huge.
Yeah, not only based on the ultimatum, but based upon the reality itself of that. How did I get into this place, into this hospital bed, to where my life right now is only down to 2 choices: lose my leg or lose my life.
Whoa. Whoa, that's powerful. How many of you think that's powerful? Right? And it adds another dimension to his story. We've all heard his story, right? Everybody, maybe, yeah, Benita, you heard it at $1 million. Powerful. This is what I'm talking about. We need to add for that connection. Beautiful, Jason. Is there any more you want to add before we go on to the next person?
No, that's really the core of it. That's where I wanted to work from. Of course, I want to work towards what came out of that, what I'm now responsible for. I had to come to terms with being responsible, not from a fault standpoint, but from a place where, yes, I am amputated from the left hip down, and yet that is not to say that my life is over or that I stopped living or that I stopped progressing. I'm not allowing that to be a reason for me not to continue striving and train myself to create strength and poise and interventions with real people because I have one leg missing.
Right. Very cool. All right. Is there anybody here that has to leave early? Okay, we're all good. Okay. Then let's go to Ardina, who's next one. And thank you. Yeah, let's give Jason a big round of applause. Yeah, just that one little tweak can make more connection for you and your audience. Just getting right there. Beautiful. Great job. All right, Ardina.
Wow, great story, Jason. For me, let's see. I can remember at a young age is when I began to realize that I loved art, but it was more of an internal thing. It wasn't something that maybe my parents would come in and say, "Oh, beautiful, this is great," or whatever. But I had an aunt who actually taught me the basics of art, and I always felt like I could connect with her. Anything I did, and she would either critique, but she would definitely give me the, this is great, or, the accolades that you need to hear. So in high school, I got an honorable mention in the newspaper about a mural that I painted in front of the White House. And to this day, I wonder, why don't I have that newspaper clipping? It's just totally like, it wasn't a big deal to my family, but it was a big deal to me. But, when you're a child, you just go along with the flow pretty much. And then in my senior year, I sold my first piece of art. And from that, I received a scholarship for college. It was a partial scholarship, but I was told not to take art with that scholarship.
Who told you that?
This is my dad. It was my dad. So I just said, okay, well, he said, go to school for business. So I did. I went to school and I started with computer science management, and I didn't like it. So I took some little courses on the side. And honestly, it wasn't until I got married, always did art on the side. It was just a hobby, definitely nothing to make money from. But in my mid-life, I was laid off from an accounting position. And that's when I just said, Lord, what am I going to do? And at that point, I said, I'm going to go back to school for something I want to do, something that I love, a passion in me. And I went back to school for graphic design. So that was a turnaround for me to just do what I believe God put in me, a talent that was in me, and to pursue it. And that's what I do now. And I love it. I'm at peace with myself.
Okay, so let's talk about, again, adding that vulnerability. So you kind of skipped over it. How did you feel when your dad told you, now you just won a scholarship? I don't care if it was half or $5, but you won a scholarship for art.
Right.
And you're all high and excited. And then your dad says, well, you could go to college, but you can't use it for art. How did you feel in that moment?
Controlled. I think it was, just, I guess it was like the why not? Why can't I go to college and take up art? But at the same time, this is my dad. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he knows best. But I think deep down inside, maybe a little disappointed.
Okay. Did you go in your room, shut the door, and cry?
I don't remember doing that.
Okay.
Anything like that. Yeah, I think I probably internalized it.
Okay. Yeah. You sound like you did, because this is your dream. You're good at it. Obviously, you're good at it. And then he squishes it. Now, you're not alone. How many of you have had, maybe not a dad, but a family member or even a good close friend or friend of the family's squash your dream? Yeah, we all have. All right. And we've all kind of sometimes internalized it because the pain was too much to bear as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your homework, I want you to really feel and see if there's anything there, right? That you can, at least share with us, like, or maybe just what you said, but a little bit more like, I was like shocked, surprised. I couldn't believe what my dad was saying. He wanted me to go to business. I wanted to do art. I wanted for art, but I internalized it because my dad was my dad. I mean, a lot of us that had dads, our dad, whatever he said, went, right?
You're right.
But you said you used the word controlling.
Yes.
Right? So your dad probably controlled you more than just this one time, right?
Yes.
So
Dad was in the Air Force.
What?
I said my dad was in the Air Force and a police.
Oh my God, then whatever he said, yeah. He had the demeanor and the voice and the authority.
That's right.
You can even clean that up. Maybe part of this is you feared your dad a little.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. See how vulnerable that fearing your dad is, better than, well, he was my dad. I just do what my dad said. But no, my dad was a cop and he was in the Air Force. And I feared him. I feared him. Not that he would hurt me, but I feared that something would happen if I didn't do what he said, or that he would yell and scream and bellow, whatever he used to do. That brings that, just that little bit can bring that vulnerability. Why? Because there's other people here in this room who knows what kind of dad you had, because maybe they had a dad. All of a sudden, boom, connection, right?
Right.
So see how we don't have to go into a boohoo story. We just say a few things, right? Speaking the truth, and boom, people can relate. All right. So if you came late, we're talking about making that connection, making a better connection to people, because we have to in this virtual world. We don't have the same, physical contacts we used to have in the experimental world. So we have to be nakedly authentic. So that's what we're learning this year. We're in the year of naked authenticity. And I made those words up. You're not going to find that in any book unless someone copied me. All right. I had somebody, I was on a call and they're like, I've never heard that before. Where did you read that? I'm like, read it. I made it up. I'm setting the trends of where we're going.
There you go.
All right. Very good, Ardina. Very good. Let's give her a big hand.
Thank you.
All right. Who was next? I think it was CJ.
I think you should skip me so everyone has a chance. I like what you said about what you said is, I'll share what you said in your hypothesis was pretty true. It wasn't popular to be a geek when I was in school. And probably the main amount of pain that I experienced around it was probably the junior high years. Maybe that's when kids are the most cruel or figuring it out. So I remember fights I got into, and I could tell a story about the one kid that picked on me until the day I took him down and sat on him until he gave up, and then he became my best friend until he moved away. So things like that.
Yeah, but just again, that feeling
of
how did it feel to be picked on? Obviously, well, good for you that you could fight, because some nerds and geeks are really frail and they just don't have the strength to fight. So again, tell us a little bit about, in that moment, that guy picking on you, what did it feel like? How did it feel? I mean, did you want to be a geek? Did you not want to be a geek? Did you wish you had long hair and were a hippie or one of the hip guys in school, or what? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have strong lingering memories about this. I don't know if that's because I repressed it or because I've moved through it, because you're right. I've certainly embraced it at this point. It's my whole life, and I'm very pleased with how things have turned out. And I feel like I can help people now like never before with all my geek skills.
Amen. And we love you being a geek. Yeah. It's popular to be a geek.
Yeah.
Okay, well, be thinking about some time in your own. And again, what we're talking about here is not adding a whole big long story, just adding a little bit more of how you feel about the story you're already sharing. Okay?
Okay.
Good. All right. All right. Yes. Let's go. We'll just go to Jackie. I'll just go along the screen. Jackie.
I've been trying to think of what to share, and I guess the best thing to share in my story, I talk about why I began to run, if you haven't heard that. And I began to run because I broke my legs badly skiing, and so I relate to the Army, Ardina, kind Army doctor told me I would always walk with a limp, and I would never run again. And I didn't run then. So that's the short of the story. But I thought maybe what I needed to go into, I just talk about, I went through 6 months of being in the cast, and then about a year of painful therapy, physical therapy. And my driving goal at that time was to prove that darn doctor wrong. And that was my every motivation to do every painful thing that I did. All those physical therapies, everything. So maybe I need to go into that a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, because I've never heard about how painful it was for you. So you can go into the actual pain of describing the pain, like it was so painful. It was like a gunshot to the leg or a knife, or the pain's coming all the way up through the leg, up through the, whatever, describe it for us. And even maybe painkillers didn't take off the pain, but you just kept thinking, I'm going to prove that doctor wrong. I never ran, but because he said you'll never run, I'm going to turn into a runner, right? And because there's people that can relate to that,
I remember one incident. My husband and I were at an amusement park, and had just gotten out of the cast. I was still on crutches because my leg was so painful. And we were at the back of an amusement park, and I got so tired. I just laid down on the bench. It was late at night, and I said, "Okay, I'm sleeping here tonight. You go home. I can't make it any further."
Why were you at an amusement park if you were on crutches and just got your leg out of a cast?
Because we lived in Europe and we were trying to do everything we could. We were at the back of Tivoli Gardens in Denmark.
Oh, okay. And they didn't have wheelchairs for you?
Oh, no, that's Europe 40 years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So for you, Jackie, I would add a little bit more about that pain that you were experiencing, but you kept going anyway.
Thank you.
Because of that motivation. Beautiful. Okay, good. Good job. All right, Ruben.
Yeah, I've been thinking what story to share, but when they invite me as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, I will always highlight my accomplishments, but sometimes I am afraid to share my pains of when I lost everything, because I'm afraid that people who are talking to, they're not gonna believe me anymore, because I was kind of one time a failure. So that's the one I'm working, because after like 24 years building the business was my identity. Everything was revolving around the business. And when in 2011, I had to lose everything, millions of dollars and many places. So I had to file for bankruptcy eventually. So that's the worst pain that I felt, because I never thought I would be going through that after sharing, after teaching that how successful you can be. Now I was on the other end, so to speak. So that's what I was struggling to share. But I think one time I shared when I was talking to some businessmen, and I think I was able to connect more when I share my pain. So that's I need to incorporate in my presentations my failure, not just my accomplishment, because sometimes the accomplishments people cannot relate to, but they can relate more what you went through.
Right.
So yeah, so it was 2 long years that was in agony, working with the lawyers and bankruptcy.
What business were you in that you lost it all?
I was actually was a Christian bookstore distributor. I was the biggest distributor of Spanish Christian products.
Oh, how cool is that? Well, you know what? People love rags to riches, and they love millionaire stories where you got $1 million and then you lost $1 million and then you got $1 million again. So that's what you have, that kind of story. And now you've built up your business again. Now, what business are you in?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, a motivational speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I want to be also a mentor to businessmen. So that's what I try to do now.
Okay, so I would share absolutely that, you were riding high, everything was good. And then 2011 happened. It's interesting, it didn't happen in 2008 when everybody else crashed and burned, right? But 2011, and that was pretty close now, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So now in the pain you went through, and like you said, 2 years of going to the lawyers and you don't wish that on anybody.
No.
Yeah. And then now here's where you are, God's
Yeah.
another,
Yeah.
so-
When I'm like sharing my story with Christians, I tell you what kept me true was God, and the thing that everything is gonna stay here once the Lord calls us. Nothing we're gonna take it. So that's kind of it was for me. It was kind of a lesson, because everything what you build here will stay here, but wherever you reaches you like create in heaven, that's gonna stay with you. So that depending on the audience, I want to share that story.
right. Well, again, now I'm going to encourage you to share it with all your audiences, right? Because you're very vulnerable. You speak very vulnerably. Was that a word? It's that the word. You're a natural, so I would share that story. And because now you've built it back up,
Yes.
especially if you want to bring God to the stage, you trusted God. I mean, you were doing Christian books in Spanish, that's a God-like thing, but maybe you were doing it for you and not for God. And sometimes people, we do that. We'll do something in his name thinking he told us to do it and he didn't. And it doesn't work. And we wonder, well, God, I'm doing this for you. And he says, are you doing it for me or are you doing it for you?
Yeah.
Right? I'm serious. And I'm not trying to preach here. I'm talking to myself about myself. Because as you know, many of you were in my Christian group, right? Christians, first it was Christian women speakers movement. Then it was Christian business owners who speak, and then Christians I tried for 5 years to get that sucker off the ground. Jason was a member of it. Jean was a member of it. Jackie was a member of it. And I tried and tried and tried and tried. Finally, I'm like, God, what's the deal? Right? It happened. I got members. But then when I'd have meetings, 15 people would come and have 30 members. But where are they? Right? When we met live. Right? We rebranded. I had a strong board. I'm like, God, what's the deal? And he asked me, is this your idea? Is this my idea? Are you doing it for me or are you doing it for you? That's what he said to me. And I went, oh, I'm doing it for me. And so 2 years ago, I quit it. Right? My business is still booming. No, nothing happened. Nobody missed it. Nobody say anything, right? I was going to make it a virtual, and then I had one of my board members say, no, don't, let it go. Because I wanted to do it. You see? I wanted a Christian speakers network. God didn't tell me to do it. I thought he did, but.
Yeah, I remember, I think now going back, I remember God sent two, I guess, messengers to tell me that it was time to let it go.
There you go.
And I didn't want to let it go because it was 24 years and I kept putting money.
That's right.
And I just burned everything to the ground.
That's right. Where if you would quit when God told you to quit. Yeah. And we all do that. I'm just trying to tell you, Ruben, you are not alone. We all do that, right? How many people have kind of done that, thought God was talking and it really was your alter ego or something? Yeah, you're not alone. That's how we're wired as just people, right?
Or when he tells you to go and you hang on. I had to learn that the hard way more than once. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're with you, Ruben. And you know what? One day, we don't have time today, but one day, maybe next meeting, I'd love to hear the full story. How many of you would love to hear that full story? Yeah, I want to hear that full story. So we'll do that next week. All right, let's get through. Let's see. Let's go to Dr. Love. We'll go to Dr. Love, and then we'll go to Angel. Then we'll go to Benita because she's been here and off and in. And then we'll go to Angelique and Jean, and then the other Jean. Oh, did we do?
Arvee, can you hear me?
Yes.
Arvee, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. First, I love your dress. Whatever you're wearing, the top is great.
Thank
And
you.
it looks great with the lipstick. The other thing I want to address what you were talking about with regards to ego and our God and our ego and doing it for ourselves versus for God. When there's ego involved, and I have a speech on this, it's called EGO, edging God out. I'm sure you have all heard that. But when you really think about it and be really present with it, and we have God within us, then there's no ego. We just do it from a servant's heart, service above self. So, and then whatever happens, the money comes into your bank account, and voila, poof, you're a multimillionaire like Arvee. It's all positive. So, okay,
All
I'm
right.
complete.
Thank you. But we're sharing your story, your vulnerability.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So when it comes to your story, right, when, about, your dad and the accident and all that, you have a couple places where you could share more truth and vulnerability, like about, how you felt when your mom kicked you out.
Yeah, losing my leg also, and the metal in my leg, and my skull ripped open, and my face bandage, and all the surgery I've had.
You were very, very young, a teenager.
16.
How did you,
16.
16, and to lose your dad, who you idolized and who adored you? How did you, so in your story, you can share more about your feelings of how you felt, as opposed to just saying the words, yeah, I adored my dad, and, whatever.
Right.
Okay, so why don't you try a little bit?
So Arvee, thank you for sharing that. And I haven't really addressed the pain. And that's a segment in the pie that I got inspired by Jason and by Jackie. The pain was excruciating, and I didn't believe in painkillers, only what I had to take, because I've heard around me that people got addicted to painkillers and then alcohol and blah, blah, blah. And so I avoided that on purpose, then struggling to make a living. But more importantly, what is it called? I internalized the pain that I had from my father when I missed him so much, but because I focused so much on my work in the real estate and the other works, the stuff that I did, but the real estate more importantly, and that's how I became a millionaire at 26, is because I focused on business, not dating, not anything.
Right,
I did other things.
Time out, though. That's not what we're doing here. We're speaking the truth.
Right. But I internalized it, but I never addressed it in a speech ever, or really any place until just now, because there's a lot of pain there.
Okay.
So I hit it and I put a Band-Aid on it, and I said, oh, everything is fine.
Okay, but tell us now then, in our safe little place, how did you can either talk about your mom and or your dad. If your dad's too painful to talk about, then talk.
No, I can talk about my dad. I can talk about my dad without crying. And I'm trying to put it into words right now, because I always hear your voice. For every 30 seconds, it's 2 hours of work. And I haven't done that, but I always say yes to you, Arvee. I always say yes when someone asks me to speak. So yes, so I just get into that space. I was just trying to put it into words how I felt. I could say that there is a time, did I tell you, Arvee, that I had a nervous breakdown?
No.
Yeah, that's when I internalized it and it came out. But it came out where I was in the hospital, went back in for a bleeding ulcer. That's why I got out of real estate. I almost died. I was throwing up blood. It was coming out of different places, and I almost died. I was in there for a week and a half with a bleeding ulcer. Got really thin, 85 pounds, 86.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
sake.
that's really thin. So
wow.
I
And
almost
how
died.
tall are you?
And that's why I got out of real estate, because it wasn't resonating with me.
How
And it didn't speak to me. And that was where I was talking about ego. I was doing it for ego and not for serving God or being the best version of myself. What I do now feels good to me in a visceral level. Okay, I'm trying to put it into words like it's a speech, but I'm just giving you information right now, and I'm trying to feel it, but I'm trying to do it in a time thing because we have other ladies behind me, and I want to give them time also. So maybe we can address this next week, and I can put it into a speech or something,
No,
or whatever
yeah,
you want me
no,
to do.
it's okay. What we're trying to demonstrate here, and you were a little late, but what we're demonstrating here is that in order to make a connection in Zoom, we have to go to naked authenticity. So how do we do that? We take parts of our story that we're already telling and we go deeper with them with more of the feeling because people can relate to that. So like for Ardina, we talked about, you know, she can pull out the little piece about her father, you know, being a policeman and that, you know, she was scared of him. That's the vulnerability right there that she's never shared, right? For Jason, it was waking up like in this fog and not having a choice really. That was new. You know, for CJ, it's not, you know, being, you know, bullied as a geek, which is never. So it's just adding a little piece of heart opening stuff. So for you, it can be about your, how you felt about losing your dad, which you never really told us, or how you felt about your mom kicking you out. I mean, you have several places. It doesn't really have anything, you know, I mean, the real estate is, you know, that's a little different. You know, you
Yeah,
probably.
that was that's what I put that in front of me versus being in the place of feeling and being authentic and actually mourning my father.
Right.
I didn't take the time to mourn my father. So
There
I put
you
everything else above that to hide
Okay.
it. Everything else was a Band-Aid. Is that a better way of saying it? Everything else was
Yeah.
a Band-Aid till I got sick.
Yes, that's better. Now
Okay, got it.
together. Yes, makes sense. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go to Benita.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Let's give her a big hand. Woo!
Thanks. I could, a couple pieces come to me. One is I was the youngest of 5 and a preacher's kid and a girl, and children were to be seen and not heard. And the standard was what would the congregants think was the standard behavior. So that's one thing. Or another piece is when I was, to be seen and heard, I learned if I did ventriloquism, you know, that would get me seen and heard. And then I started doing magic and ventriloquism shows and was offered a school assembly contract, but I kind of put it all on the back burner for a while because I was afraid I wouldn't be taken seriously as a lawyer. There were very few women to begin with at that time. I think there were 2 others in my town. And then if I was the puppet lady, who would take me seriously? And so I put away back burner this thing I love. And then now I realize how important humor is and helps you stand out and get business and all that. But so,
Well, I would say your vulnerability maybe starts at when you were seen and not heard. That you maybe an example of a time, you know, like sitting around the dinner table. Like one of the things I'll just give you, I hate talking about myself, but that's the only way I can make analogies, is I wanted to be a singer when I was younger. That was my goal, right? But when I would sing at the dinner table, that was a no-no. So I would be happy and I'd sing at the dinner table and I got like, boom, you don't sing. You don't sing. An example of being seen and not heard. My 2 brothers, when I would sing, told me I couldn't sing. So guess what I did? I quit singing. And now to this day, I can't sing, right? So what I'm saying is that's a piece of my vulnerability. So what is yours as a result of being seen and not heard? I mean, that's what your parents told you, but you did something with it. In other words, you internalized it. You never said a word at the dinner table. You know, your dad would ask you something and you would, I mean, there's a result of something that happened as a result of hearing those words, either a physical manifestation that you did or didn't do. That's what we
more like I didn't speak up for myself, maybe.
Okay.
And I don't, this isn't me, but I would see my father would poke my mother when we would be invited after church on Sundays to people's houses a lot. And when she would speak, he would reach over and poke her to be quiet.
Oh, no. And she
then-
would be quiet, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
my
that's
brother,
fascinating.
when I was my brother and he was a teenager, started doing that to me, and then I started speaking louder when he did that. But it took him doing that and seeing my father. But
Good for him, but that's a good story. That's a
Huh.
good story for you to bring in. Right?
about seeing my father poke my mother,
Yeah.
I
then
never
your brother
thought about
started to
sharing
do it
that.
to you, and you broke his fingers, right? Or something. But it took you a lot more to come out of your shell and to do ventriloquism, which is so ironic because you're really not speaking in a way. You're speaking through your puppets.
Well, think about a lawyer is speaking for other people too. There's a similarity.
That's true. That's true. But now, I mean, from what I know about you, you have no trouble speaking up, Benita. Right,
Mhm.
everybody? She looks like a very confident speaker-upper. So good,
Mhm.
you got over it. You let it go. Perfect. Good job. Okay,
I
great.
need to go because I have another Zoom
Okay.
call now.
Bye-bye.
See you all.
See you
Bye.
next week. Okay,
Okay.
let's go to Angelique.
I have too many stories. No.
Just the vulnerability. Take your story you're doing now and just pick a piece of it where you can go deeper and be more vulnerable. Just that's the exercise we've been doing.
All right. So I'll go with, oh yeah. I really don't have anything personal in my story. I think that's my problem. I have that the kids were young. I mean, but I think I need to change my story around. Seriously.
No, you don't have to change your story. There's a piece in there that you're vulnerable, but you're just covering it up right now.
No, I have so many vulnerabilities. I promise.
Okay.
I
So
have,
pick
well,
one.
let's see. So I was always the most happy, healthy kid. And then when I was 32, I got really sick. They told me I had 9 months to live. And I told them that they were wrong. And I felt like, let's see, I felt like they were lying to me. I felt like the doctors were lying to me because it didn't feel right in my body. And so then I kept fighting and fighting for me to find out what was really wrong. And so I found a doctor that found that there was a tumor in my lung. And they told me that I had mesothelioma, and now I had 1 year to live. And so I told them, no, that's not going to work out for me either, because I just had I had 4 kids. I can't go anywhere. I was sole provider. Like, this is not okay. You know, I had to fight through it. And I felt like, I felt almost defeated, but not that I wasn't, like someone was trying to defeat me and I was like, not going to give in. That was how I felt. Like someone was trying to get on me and I was like, get off of me. I'm doing this anyway. And so they did surgery. I was sick in bed and working from home when I could for 6 years on oxygen and going through surgeries and taking many, many pain pills because I was in excruciating pain because it ended up being a blood type of cancer. And so I actually turned it into manifestation. I just started healing myself with God's help, co-creating. And now I'm off of all the pain medicine. The doctors are like, what? So now I feel elated because I feel better. You know, I feel more like me again. I actually got sick, like back up to when I got off of the oxygen. I was in bed one morning and I literally was laying in bed and I was almost in bed every stinking day, every day. And I woke up that morning and I thought to myself, I am so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't stand it anymore. I have to be well. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go full-time job again and just be done with all of this crap and push it all behind. And that's what I did. Is that vulnerable?
Yeah, there's some vulnerable pieces in there. I love the part where you really, just told the doctors, forget about it. That doesn't work for me. because there's a lesson in there too, vulnerable, you taking all the painkillers.
Yeah, and chemotherapy pills. I mean, that I took the chemotherapy for almost a year. And then that turned into seizures, and it turned into all these different medical problems.
You felt awful.
Yeah, I felt like crap. And then I just decided I was done feeling like crap. I was like, I'm so tired of this. Like having my husband have to make me food and wash my hair because my hands were hurting. Too bad I couldn't wash my own hair.
And you were so young.
Yeah, and my kids were so young. Yeah, this was back in 06.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
And so my whole family thought I was going to die. They told my family I was going to die. And I'm like, you might think so, but I know different because God's telling me I'm not done yet. So.
Wow. That's good for you. I mean, what hell to go through.
Survivor.
Wow.
That's right. It's, hey, everything happens for a reason. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
That's right. Still,
Hey, I'm just glad I was right on that year, or you would have never met me.
That's right. All right, let's go to Jean Vox in Iowa, freezing Iowa. Then we'll go to Jean driving in her car.
That was awesome.
Well, I'm trying to rack my brain really because, when I was in the 4-day, my why and my motivation for coaching and helping people with their health was my mom's poor health, and you felt like that wasn't strong enough, and I needed to do something different. But that is the truth, I guess.
Well, maybe it wasn't strong enough because you didn't have any feeling behind it.
True.
It was just words.
Yeah. So I'm thinking back to when she was really sick and I was a teenager and I was just observing, her life and how she had gone from this vivacious volunteer to an invalid in the matter of 3 weeks. And how she had a dad that was hard on her. And Ardina, I related to you about her because he wanted her to be a teacher. And so she went to college, was a teacher for a year, hated it, told him, she was done with it. She was going to go do something else. And she wanted to go into business. And then she met my dad and, they got married and, all of that stuff. And she always wanted to go back into business, but then she got married, started having family, kids and all that. And I just saw her like give her dreams away, give her life away. And so, and she was busy with all this volunteer work. I think it was driving her more than she was driving it. And then she had a health crisis and it stopped her. And so I just I think I've carried a grief for her that she never got to live out her dreams, and how her health cut that short, but also just that drivenness of, I either don't measure up to somebody else's expectation, or I have to give up my dreams on everybody else's behalf. And I think those are two really strong saboteurs.
Yes, they are. And that, again, vulnerability. So that's how you feel after you've seen your mom.
Yeah.
And how old were you when your mom was going through crisis? You were pretty young, right?
Well, I was about 16.
15.
16.
That's young.
Yeah. And so I was at that age where, I'm seeing that I'm starting to become an adult and make more adult choices. And, what do I do with my life as I'm separating from my parents? And this is the only example that I've had You know, I didn't have a mom that went out and worked, you know, it was kind of back at that time, you either became a teacher, a secretary, or a nurse, you know,
Yeah.
and yet I was right on the edge where everybody started going to college and having any kind of career that they wanted. And I ended up being a young mom as well. So
Yes. I love that. Can you feel Jean right now? Can you just feel her vulnerability and her honesty and her truth? I love that. That's the real story now.
okay.
Beautiful. Well done. Now, do we have, is Jason falling asleep? I can't tell. Sorry, called you at it. I know. Wasn't that a great story? Well, we lost Jean in driving, driving Jean, but Jean, no, that was the real story. It was beautiful. And that's what I would share. Just like that.
Thank you. I'm glad
Yeah, that's the real truth.
here tonight. Sorry, my phone went out and I didn't hear your message, but I think I got the gist of it.
Good. What message?
Well, the teaching part, my phone quit when I was walking, and
Oh.
so I missed like 15 minutes of your teaching.
Well, I'll put this up on YouTube and then I'll put the link in the Facebook group so you can all see, hear that. Yeah, we still don't have Passionately Speaking audio up yet. It's been down for 2 months, but I'm working on it. I got the best gal working on it, my virtual assistant. So it should be up momentarily. I don't know what it is. If not, I'm going to get CJ on it because the host Skater is the one that hosts it. And I don't know why, but it's gone. I don't know. Maybe I told Beverly today, maybe it's my credit card, maybe the expiration date and they didn't charge me. So they took it down, but let's find out. But I got it so long ago that I had another company name. I had another email and they're trying to figure out how to prove it's me. It's crazy. Oh yeah. Anybody in the world wants Passionately Speaking. I don't know. Anyway, all right. Well, we're over time a little bit, but thank you all for sharing your stories, your vulnerability, and yourselves with each other. Now you're on the road to real connection in the virtual world. So keep it up. Keep practicing. Again, we don't want to go too far deep, but we want to go a little deeper than we've been going. That means all of us. All right. Myself included. All right. So good job. We'll see you back here. Yeah. Woo. We'll see you back here next week. All right. Have a good week, everyone. Mwah.
Thank you, Arvee.
Thank you, Arvee. Goodbye,
Thanks everyone for your stories.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Ardina, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
That I went back to school at the age of 30.
Okay.
And became a graphic designer.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
You guys have a lot of similarities.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you, Arvee, because this was really like a psychiatrist.
Yeah, group therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote some notes and that helped me to dig a little bit deeper into even where I am today.
Good. Yay.
Yeah.
And it's
Thanks for
seriously
sharing that, Jean.
Oh yeah. That's funny. It was the perfect topic too, because I was reading, I'm practicing my speech for my event, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going, there's nothing personal in here. Like I'm like, how do these people even know what I'm just like,
Yeah.
there's
yeah,
no touch. I was like, what do I do? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
Arvee lives in my head, I think.
She's in all of our heads. I ain't
right
even dreaming about Arvee, so I know.
I haven't done that yet, but it was coming soon. I'm sure.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you.
I'm just so
Thank you,
impressed,
guys.
Angelique, with your power on, like, no, I'm not dying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had already been through so much in my life by that point. I was just like, another bump, let's do this, I mean, I was same like you. I was a young mom. I was 17 when I got pregnant. And then they, the school tried to kick me out. And I was like, nope, show me in the laws. Never told my mom, show me in your rule book where I have to leave and I'll leave. They never showed me, so I stayed, that's just how I've always, like, if it doesn't resonate, I'm like, nope. And, young mom and freaking bad marriages and women, children shelters and all kinds of fun. So it just, it makes you who you are. And it's, what I found is that events that happen in our lives are events, and events are neutral, but it's us that attach the emotion to it. So even though we can recall the emotion, we don't have to hold on to that emotion in ourselves so that it hinders us and limits us from moving forward. And that's kind of what I do in my life.
Very good. Very wise lessons from such a young person. Very wise.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Sounds good.
See you
I love you all.
Love you all too. Thank you so much.
All right.